This woman, her name is Christina, and she made a decision that would destroy every relationship she ever had. She looked at two men in her life, chose the one she wanted to be her child's father, and lied to make it happen. What she didn't realize was that one calculated decision would cost her absolutely everything: her marriage, her reputation, her future, and the respect of everyone who ever knew her. This is her story, and I'm Emma, here to share it with you. Christina was 28 years old, working in retail, and feeling like life was passing her by. While scrolling through social media, she'd see former classmates posting engagement photos, baby announcements, and pictures of perfect families. Meanwhile, Christina felt stuck in a pattern that seemed to go nowhere. She was seeing two different men at the same time. In her mind, this wasn't wrong. It was strategic. She told herself that until someone made a real commitment, she had every right to keep her options available. Why put all your faith in one person when neither had proven they were serious? The first man was Ryan. He was 34, stable, responsible, and already a father to two children from a previous marriage. When Ryan took Christina out, they went to nice restaurants. He was punctual, remembered details about her life, and treated her with genuine respect. He had a good job, owned his home, and seemed to have his entire life organized. But there was something that frustrated Christina deeply. Ryan moved incredibly slowly. They'd been talking for a month before their first actual date, and over 3 months they'd only gone out 5 or 6 times. Christina interpreted this as hesitation. She wondered if he was comparing her to his ex-wife, or if his children made him overly cautious about bringing someone new into their lives. Whatever the reason, it felt like Ryan was keeping her at arm's length, and that wounded her pride. The second man was different entirely. Let's call him Jake. Jake was excitement personified. He was spontaneous, passionate, and made Christina feel desired in ways that Ryan's careful approach never did. But Jake was also unreliable. He'd disappear for days without explanation, then show up at her apartment late at night, full of charm and intensity. Those moments with him felt electric, but Christina knew deep down that Jake would never be the settling down type. He valued his freedom too much to ever truly commit to anyone. Christina found herself at a crossroads. Ryan represented security, stability, and the family life she desperately wanted. Jake represented passion and excitement, but no future. She could see exactly where each path would lead, and neither man seemed willing to move fast enough for her liking. Then something happened that changed everything. Christina missed her period. Sitting in her bathroom, staring at the pregnancy test, Christina felt her heart race. But instead of panic, her mind shifted into planning mode. She knew immediately whose baby this was. She and Ryan hadn't been intimate yet. His respectful, slow approach meant they hadn't reached that point in their relationship. This was Jake's child, without question. But as Christina sat there, an idea formed in her mind. An idea that would alter the course of multiple lives forever. She thought about Ryan's qualities: his devotion to his children, his financial stability, his desire to have more kids someday. She thought about Jake's pattern of disappearing, his refusal to commit, his chaotic lifestyle. And she made a choice. She decided that Ryan should believe this baby was his. In Christina's mind, she was solving multiple problems at once. Ryan wanted more children and would make an excellent father. She wanted security and a real family. Jake would never step up anyway. Everyone would get what they wanted as long as she controlled the narrative. That night, Christina blocked Jake on every platform. She deleted his number, removed him from social media, and even threw away the clothes he'd left at her apartment. If this plan was going to work, she needed to erase him completely from her life. The next day, Christina invited Ryan over for dinner at her place. She spent hours preparing, cleaning every surface, cooking his favorite meal, creating the perfect atmosphere for what she'd rehearsed as the most important conversation of her life. When Ryan arrived with flowers, as he always did, Christina felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. They ate dinner, talked, and laughed. Everything felt natural. After the meal, Christina suggested they sit together on the couch. Her pulse pounded as she prepared to speak the words she'd been practicing. "I have something important to tell you," she said, watching his face carefully. "I'm pregnant." The silence that followed felt endless. Christina could see Ryan processing the information, his mind clearly working through dates and timelines. Finally, he asked gentle questions. When had she found out? How far along did she think she was? But then Ryan started to ask another question, one that Christina could see forming before he spoke. Are you sure it's... He stopped himself. But Christina knew what he'd been about to say. She felt genuine anger rise within her. After everything, his first instinct was to question her. She turned that anger into hurt, letting her voice crack as she spoke. I can't believe you don't trust me. After everything we've shared, you think I'd lie about this? Ryan immediately apologized, explaining he was simply shocked, that he hadn't meant to offend her. He held her hands and promised he'd step up, that they'd figure everything out together. Over the following days and weeks, Ryan proved exactly why Christina had chosen him. He started talking about responsibility, about creating a stable home for their child. He suggested Christina move in with him. He introduced her to his children with obvious pride, explaining that they were going to be a bigger family now. Christina played her part perfectly. She brought small gifts for Ryan's kids, remembered their favorite snacks, asked thoughtful questions about their school activities. When she met Ryan's ex-wife, Christina was respectful and warm, never trying to overstep boundaries or create conflict. 2 months later, Ryan proposed. He said he wanted to do right by Christina and the baby, that he'd already been thinking about marriage, and this confirmed they were meant to build a life together. Christina felt triumphant. Everything was falling into place exactly as she'd planned. She was going to be Ryan's wife, mother to 3 children, part of the kind of family that others envied. But marriage wasn't the fairy tale Christina had imagined. Ryan kept their finances completely separate, saying he wanted to wait until after the baby arrived to combine everything. When Christina wanted to redecorate or buy new furniture, Ryan seemed to question every purchase. His children, while sweet, came with boundaries that Christina found frustrating. Ryan acted as though she needed permission for every small decision involving them: their bedtime routines, their snacks, their activities. The pregnancy itself became increasingly complicated to manage. As Christina began showing, Ryan wanted to attend every doctor's appointment. He asked questions about test results and ultrasounds that Christina couldn't answer honestly. She convinced him that she wanted a natural home birth with a midwife, claiming hospitals were full of unnecessary interventions and stress. Ryan seemed uncertain about this choice, but he tried to be supportive. Christina began following natural parenting blogs and sharing articles about home birth benefits. The more research she could show him, the more legitimate her decision appeared. Then Jake started trying to contact her again. Apparently, a mutual friend had mentioned seeing Christina's wedding photos online. Jake began showing up at her workplace, asking to speak with her. The first time he cornered her in the parking lot after her shift, Christina told him to leave her alone, that she was happily married and didn't want complications from her past. But Jake persisted. He asked specific questions about timing, saying things didn't add up. I'm not stupid, he told her. I can count months just as well as anyone. Christina told him she'd lost his baby early on, and this was a completely different pregnancy. But she could see in his expression that he wasn't convinced. He was putting pieces together, and Christina didn't like where his conclusions were leading. Stay away from me and my family, Christina warned him. But Jake wouldn't drop it. He started threatening to contact Ryan directly, saying he just wanted to clear the air and make sure there were no misunderstandings. Christina's anxiety grew every day. She found herself snapping at Ryan over insignificant things, leaving dishes in the sink, forgetting items at the store. She created drama to distract from her increasing panic about Jake's persistence. One evening, while Ryan played with his children in the backyard, Christina saw a familiar car pull into their driveway. Her blood turned cold. Jake had found their house. When the doorbell rang, Christina rushed to answer before Ryan could. She stepped outside and closed the door behind her, but it was too late. Ryan had already heard and was coming around from the backyard, his children trailing behind him. Christina, who's this? Ryan asked, confusion clear in his voice. Before Christina could answer, Jake spoke up. Hi, I'm Jake. I'm an old friend of Christina's. I was hoping we could all talk for a minute. Christina's heart hammered against her ribs. Jake was just leaving, she said quickly. We don't have anything to talk about. But Jake wasn't backing down. He looked directly at Ryan and said, Actually, I think we do. It's about Christina's pregnancy. The words hung in the air like a detonation waiting to happen. Christina's mind raced. This is harassment. she said loudly, hoping neighbors might hear. "I've told you to leave me alone, but you keep stalking me. Ryan, call the police." Jake's eyes widened in shock. "Stalking? Christina, what are you talking about? You know that's not what this is." "I don't know what you think happened between us," Christina continued, her voice rising with emotion. "But I'm married now. I'm having my husband's baby. You need to accept that and move on." Ryan stepped closer, his protective instincts engaged. "Look, man, I don't know what your situation is, but my wife has asked you to leave. I think you should respect that." But Jake wasn't intimidated. If anything, he seemed more determined. "She's lying to you about the baby. The timing doesn't work. We were together right when she would have gotten pregnant, and you two barely knew each other then." "That's not true," Christina shouted, but her voice cracked, sounding desperate even to her own ears. "Ryan, don't listen to him. He's been obsessed with me since we broke up. He can't handle that I chose you." Ryan looked between them, processing what he was hearing. "What exactly are you saying?" he asked Jake. "I'm saying the baby might be mine, and she knows it." The silence that followed felt deafening. Ryan's children had stopped playing and were staring from across the yard. Christina felt like her entire world was collapsing in real time. "You're insane," Christina said, her voice shaking. "Ryan, he's lying. He's trying to ruin our marriage because he can't stand that I'm happy." But Ryan was looking at her differently now, studying her face as if seeing her clearly for the first time. "Christina, is there any chance what he's saying could be true?" "How can you even ask me that?" Christina shot back. "After everything we've been through, after all our plans, you're going to believe some random guy over your own wife?" "I'm not random," Jake said firmly, "and I have proof." He pulled out his phone and began scrolling through evidence: text messages, call logs, photographs. "Here's her number in my phone. Here are messages from right around the time she would have gotten pregnant. Here's a photo of us together from that weekend." Ryan took the phone and looked through everything. Christina watched his face pale as he examined the evidence, the dates, the messages, the timeline that made her story impossible. "Christina," he said quietly, "we need to talk." But Christina was in full panic mode. "He's doctored those screenshots," she said desperately. "Anyone can fake text messages. Ryan, you know me. You know I wouldn't lie about something like this." "Then take a paternity test," Jake said. "If you're so sure the baby is his, prove it." The suggestion hit Christina like a physical blow. "Absolutely not," she said immediately. "Those tests can be dangerous for the baby. I'm not risking my child's health because some psycho is trying to destroy my marriage." But her refusal only made things worse. Ryan stared at her with an expression she'd never seen before, disappointment mixed with suspicion and something deeper. "If there's nothing to hide," he said slowly, "why won't you take the test?" "Because I shouldn't have to prove anything to you," Christina exploded. "I'm your wife. The fact that you're even considering this shows how little you actually trust me." Christina stormed into the house and slammed the door, but she could hear them continuing to talk outside. Through the window, she watched Jake showing Ryan more evidence, watched her husband's posture change as reality dawned on him. When Ryan finally came inside, he looked like a completely different person. "I think you should stay somewhere else tonight," he said quietly. "We'll figure out the rest tomorrow." The next few weeks became Christina's worst nightmare. Ryan moved into the guest room and barely spoke to her except about logistics. He arranged for a court-ordered paternity test despite all her protests. Suddenly, Christina had lawyers calling, paperwork to sign, appointments she couldn't avoid. She tried everything to fix things. She cried, pleaded, promised they could work through this together. She told Ryan that Jake had forced himself on her, and she'd been too ashamed to tell the truth. She said she was scared and confused and just wanted their family to stay together. But Ryan had gone cold in a way Christina had never witnessed before. He looked at her like she was a stranger, like everything they'd built together was an elaborate deception. "I can't believe anything you say anymore," he told her one morning. "Every time I think I understand what happened, you change the story." "I was protecting you," Christina said desperately. "I didn't want you to be hurt by what he did to me." "Stop," Ryan said firmly. "Just stop lying. We both know what really happened here." Meanwhile, Jake had been busy too. He'd filed harassment charges against Christina for her false accusations, and his lawyer was threatening a defamation lawsuit. Suddenly, Christina faced legal problems on top of everything else, and she couldn't afford a good attorney on her retail salary. The worst part was how quickly everyone turned against her. Ryan's ex-wife, who'd been so welcoming before, now looked at Christina with obvious disgust. Ryan's friends stopped including her in plans. Even people at work started treating her differently after the drama spilled onto social media. Christina tried to control the narrative, posting vague messages about going through a difficult time and asking for prayers. But Jake had screenshots of everything, and mutual friends started sharing the real story. Soon, everyone knew exactly what she'd done. The paternity test results came back on a Tuesday. Christina was home alone when Ryan got the call from his lawyer. She watched through the kitchen window as he sat in his car in their driveway for nearly an hour, just staring at the paperwork. When he finally came inside, he didn't say anything. He simply handed Christina the results and went upstairs to pack. The baby wasn't his. Obviously, Christina had known this, but seeing it in official documentation made everything feel final in a way she hadn't expected. "Ryan, please," Christina called after him. "We can still make this work. I love you." That part was never a lie. He stopped halfway up the stairs and turned back to look at her. "You were never going to tell me the truth, were you? Even now, even with all the evidence, you're still trying to manipulate the situation." "I was scared," Christina said, and for once it was completely honest. "I was scared of losing you." "You never had me," Ryan said quietly. "You had a fantasy version of me that you created in your head. But you never actually cared enough to get to know the real me, because if you had, you would have known I deserved better than this." He finished packing and left that same day. He filed for annulment, moved back to his old place, and blocked Christina on every platform. Just like that, the life she'd constructed vanished completely. But that wasn't even the worst part. Jake didn't want anything to do with Christina after the truth emerged, but he did want his parental rights. While Christina dealt with divorce proceedings and legal fallout from her accusations, Jake was filing custody papers and establishing himself as the father. Christina ended up giving birth alone in a hospital, not the peaceful home birth she'd planned. Ryan's insurance had been canceled when the annulment went through, and she couldn't afford the midwife anymore anyway. Jake showed up for the birth certificate signing, but he looked at Christina like she was something disgusting. "I'll take care of my kid," he said, "but don't expect anything else from me. What you did was unforgivable." He established joint custody immediately, which meant Christina had to share her baby with someone who despised her. Every handoff became a reminder of how catastrophically her plan had backfired. The harassment charges stuck. Christina ended up with a criminal record and had to complete community service. The defamation lawsuit was eventually dropped, but only because Jake's lawyer said she wasn't worth pursuing since she had no assets anyway. Christina lost her job too. The drama had followed her to work, and her manager said her personal problems were affecting the team. Apparently, customers had started recognizing her from social media and complaining. In a small town, everyone knows everyone's business, and Christina's business was exactly the kind people love to discuss. She had to move back in with her parents, a 28-year-old single mother with a criminal record and no job prospects. Every day, Christina had to watch her mother's disappointed face as she helped with the baby, knowing her mom was thinking about how different things could have been if Christina had just been honest from the beginning. The absolute worst part was seeing Ryan around town with someone new, a teacher from his children's school who seemed genuinely kind and normal. She wasn't trying to trap him or manipulate him. She just liked him for who he was. They looked happy together in a way that made Christina's stomach hurt every time she saw them. His kids called her by her first name and seemed to genuinely enjoy her company. She attended their games, helped with homework, and did all the things Christina had thought she wanted to do. Except this woman was doing them because she actually cared, not because she was trying to secure her position. Sometimes Christina would see them at the grocery store or the mall, this perfect blended family, and she'd have to leave before they noticed her. Not because she was embarrassed, but because seeing what she'd lost was too painful to endure. Christina's friends stopped calling after a while. Nobody wants to be associated with someone who lies about paternity and makes false accusations, Her social media became a wasteland of old posts that nobody interacted with anymore. She tried dating again eventually, but men would search her name online and find all the drama, or they'd hear the story from someone else. In a small town, that kind of reputation follows you everywhere. Christina became known as the woman who tried to trap a man with another man's baby, and that's not exactly an attractive quality to most people. The baby is actually beautiful. She looks just like Jake, which serves as another daily reminder of Christina's choices. Christina loves her daughter completely, but every time she looks at her, she remembers that this child could have grown up with a real family, with a father who chose to be there instead of being legally obligated. Jake is a decent father, Christina admits. He takes his responsibilities seriously, always shows up when he's supposed to, and provides everything their daughter needs. But he still looks at Christina like she's something unpleasant he stepped in, and she knows that will never change. Christina's daughter will grow up knowing that her parents can't stand each other, and it's entirely Christina's fault. Sometimes Christina wonders what would have happened if she'd just been honest from the beginning. Maybe Jake would have stepped up anyway. Maybe she and Ryan could have remained friends. Maybe she wouldn't be living in her childhood bedroom, working part-time at a gas station, watching everyone else live the life she thought she deserved. But then Christina remembers how good it felt when Ryan proposed, how perfect everything seemed when her plan was working. For a few months, she had exactly what she wanted. And honestly, even knowing how it all turned out, part of her still thinks she deserved that happiness. That's the thing nobody talks about, Christina realizes. Sometimes the consequence isn't just losing what you gained. Sometimes it's having to live with the knowledge that you're exactly the kind of person who would do something like this in the first place. And no matter how much you wish you could change it, you can't escape who you really are. Christina's story is a stark reminder that deception, no matter how carefully planned, eventually crumbles under the weight of truth. She wanted security, family, and respect, but she tried to build those things on a foundation of lies. In the end, she lost everything she was trying to protect and became someone she never thought she'd be, alone, regretful, and facing the consequences of choices that can never be undone. This is Emma, and that was Christina's story, a cautionary tale about manipulation, deception, and the devastating consequences that follow when we try to control others through lies. Christina wanted a perfect life so badly that she was willing to deceive a good man, deny another man his rights, and gamble with the future of an innocent child. What strikes me most about this story is how Christina kept believing she deserved happiness even after everything fell apart, as if wanting something badly enough justified the pain she caused others. If this story made you feel something, anger, sadness, disbelief, or even sympathy, please take a moment to like this video. Share it with friends who might need to hear this reminder that shortcuts built on lies always lead to dead ends. And subscribe to Mrs. Emma's channel so you don't miss more true stories like this one. Stories that explore the real consequences of our choices and remind us that integrity isn't just a virtue, it's a necessity. Thank you for listening, and remember, the life you build with truth might take longer to create, but it's the only one that will last. Until next time, this is Emma.